Well, I don't have very much interesting to say about Gina Carano getting fired by Disney. It's the same old, same old. One of the things that I guess is interesting to note is that if you didn't pay attention to the fact that, she tweeted these things in real life and that she apparently had these opinions in real life, if you just paid attention to her character on the show, it seems like she would be, widely approved of for, a display of feminism and girl power. And, there was really, and I know The Mandalorian has been generally liked by the part of the Star Wars fandom that is less, that is more traditional. There's still an awful lot of girl power, feminist displays on that show. A lot of female characters who are really tough and beat up stormtroopers and all that kind of stuff, which I don't particularly care for. Not because I don't like female characters who can kick ass necessarily. It's just this whole this whole display of women as somehow being the equal to men, physically speaking, that I think is just ridiculous and absurd and helps to further this undesirable agenda. Now, in Gina Carano's case, she probably could take some men out. She's pretty big and strong. She could probably take me, and I might want her to. No, just kidding. But beyond that, I think that just helps to reinforce that it doesn't really matter who you are. It doesn't really matter whether you're a strong, independent woman. It doesn't matter if you physically are everything that they want, right? You could be a black, Latino, lesbian midget, and if you had the wrong ideas and opinions and beliefs, they would still hold it against you. They would still cancel you. They would still say that you were basically, this absurd term, multiracial whiteness. They would say, oh, you're actually white because your beliefs are this way. But turning away from all of that, I want to look back on what I think some of the origins of cancel culture. The earliest people to be canceled, because I'm old enough to remember when this was still a novelty. And in the very early days, it wasn't like, oh, here we go again. Here's the mob braying for this person's head because he said something that that he's not supposed to say, or he expressed an opinion that you're not supposed to express. At the time that this happened, it wasn't something that generally happened to people, whether they were celebrities or whoever. So it like I said, it was the beginning of this phenomenon. And I think that some of the earliest victims of cancel culture were, first of all, Howard Cosell, the famous announcer. One Monday Night Football game, he talked about a running back who was a black guy. Of course, he's a running back, right? And he said something about him. Oh boy, that little monkey sure gets around. And he actually didn't mean anything racial by it. He meant that he was just this agile creature who could duck and dodge and so forth. But of course, it didn't matter what he meant. What mattered was how people perceived what he said, and that's always what ends up being the case. What people's intentions are never matters. It's always just what they say you come across as seeming like. which is part of what's so odious about all of this, this entire phenomenon. So Cosell got in trouble for that. I think he was forced to apologize. I don't think his career was ended by it, but it was permanently marred, I think, by this incident. And around the same time, I think this was sometime in the mid 80s, there was this guy named Jimmy the Greek, who also was a football commentator. He would come on, I think, on the CBS show and talk about what he saw the odds were. I think he was he was like a bookie. He was sort of somebody within the realm of betting on these games, what the odds were of one team winning versus another team winning. And his nickname was Jimmy the Greek. I don't know what his actual name was, but he was known as Jimmy the Greek. And so there was some party that Jimmy the Greek had attended where he had a couple too many, and he was talking about why blacks had developed into such good athletes in America. And he said his theory was that the slave owners, wanted to have strong slaves as their offspring, and so they got the strongest, guy who was the slave, the black slave, and bred him with the strongest woman, and so that was how the seed was passed through the generations, and how blacks became so dominant athletically. Of course, when it came out, this was hidden audio, and when this came out, he was fired summarily. I don't think he ever recovered. I think he was just gone after that. Then there was Governor Evan Mecham, who was the governor of Utah, I think in the mid to late 80s. And he made the faux pas of saying that he didn't think Martin Luther King should be recognized in a holiday uniquely for Martin Luther King, because no other person in American history, I don't think, has a day, that's a holiday named after him, no matter how illustrious a person he or she is. That is that uniquely that honor is uniquely bestowed upon Martin Luther King. Well, for saying that, he was blacklisted, and eventually he was a Republican, and the Republicans said, this is not good for our image. We're down with MLK Day, and they saw to it that he was gone, and he was flung down the memory hole for having the wrong opinion. And finally, there was Andy Rooney of 60 Minutes fame, who said something. He didn't say this. He was famous for being a gadfly of opinions. He would come on and say, "You ever wonder why?" And he would always, bitch about this, that, and the other, and that was his whole shtick. Why are these cans so hard to open? And just silly stuff like that. But apparently he thought that homosexuality was unappealing, and said so on some occasion. And that was simply not acceptable. And I think that they claimed that he said things about black people, which he denied. But the stuff he said about homosexuality, I think, was never denied. And so he was, as I recall, put on probation for a time, and then eventually he did come back and apologized, had to bow and scrape. So that was the late 80s. That was maybe getting into the 90s. And as I said earlier, these cases, these 4 cases that I'm referring to here, these were like the proto cancel culture occurrences. There wasn't Twitter yet. This was long before social media, but it was basically what set the bar for this type of activity, whereby if somebody said something that was deemed offensive or deemed inappropriate or unacceptable, they couldn't just apologize for it. They had to be they either had to have their careers ended, or they had to really bow and scrape and toe the company line and so forth, and show their allegiance to self-improvement, to self-improvement in the realm of opinion expressing. So I think it's important, I would encourage anybody. I suspect that people who watch this channel are mostly younger than myself, and probably significantly younger than myself. Look up those 4 cases. I'm not sure which was the first, but they are all interesting early instances of cancel culture. And, it's just, it's useful to note that this is not just a phenomenon that is of the last 5 years. It's not just a phenomenon born of social media. It's not just a phenomenon of the Twitter mob. It's something that has been around for a long time. It's just been systematized to the point where, it's like every other month you hear about somebody going down in flames, getting stabbed in the back, getting kicked out the door because they said something that was deemed not worthy of being said. So I think it's worthwhile to study this phenomenon and ask oneself what it's all about. This entire phenomenon by which the respectable class, respectable people, pat themselves on the back and feel good about themselves by expressing self-righteous outrage at somebody who has said something that they don't like. This seems to be something that we've been habituated to, particularly a certain class of people. I would say the middle class, the upper middle class. It's like almost a way of just showing your bona fides if you're offended by the right things at the right time. And again, cancel culture doesn't care whether you're white or black or other. It doesn't care whether you're gay or straight or other. It's just all about saying something that you're not supposed to say, expressing something that you're not supposed to express, and then having to have your career ruined because of it. So I like to take the longer view, and not just be reactive, but see the trend and then ask what's really going on behind this trend. Who first set this trend in motion? How did it get started? How did it become something that was habituated to the mindset of certain types of people, and to the point where now there's another victim practically every week. Somebody braying for somebody's head because they said something that they weren't supposed to have said. And of course, it's very hypocritically enforced, because the people who are on the right side of history, even when they do say things that are outrageous and offensive, they rarely get any kind of consequences. Or if they do get consequences, those consequences eventually are rescinded. See James Gunn. So, just some food for thought. Thanks for watching. My name's Andy Nowicki. You can check out my work at altrightnovelist.com.